Oh, it's gonna be one of those days. So, I went into today's game expecting to enjoy it just as much as I did when we discovered Trine last week. So let's discover my disappointment today as we discover Borderlands together. This is definitely not my first time playing through the game. Actually, as I was finishing up the writing degree that I mentioned last week, it was very normal for me to come out of a horrible final class, have dealt with a crappy teacher, sit down, boot up my computer, and shoot fools for an hour in this game. And no, I was definitely not pretending that those fools were the horrible teachers. Stop questioning and judging me. So when I picked up this game for this week, I really expected to be recommending it for all of you and saying how amazing it was. Now, I will say this to begin with. The shooting in Borderlands is smooth, the guns feel like they have weight and kick to them, and your shots feel like they have a significance on the world around you. The main focus on the game is shooting things, as it should be for a game like this, and finding new and better guns feels amazing. If you're looking for this game as something to pick up for an hour or two every now and then to blow off steam and complete a couple missions, then log back off for a while, you may still find it as enjoyable as I once did. But if you're playing it to get through the game or to play for more than an hour, this game will beat you down. You begin the game as one of the 4 Vault Hunters. There's Brick the Berserker, Roland the Soldier, Lilith the Phoenix, and my character, Mordecai the Sniper, specializing in sniper rifles and pistols with a bloodthirsty bird that he can send after enemies. You start out in the tiny town of Firestone, greeted by a strange hologram of a woman who calls herself Angel. She entrusts you to the local claptrap, and you set about completing missions for the locals to gain their trust. In no time, you've taken out the local bandit leaders and found the first piece of the key to the legendary Vault. The Vault is said to be a magical place somewhere on this planet of Pandora. The tales say that it holds magical artifacts and treasures beyond our wildest dreams. So of course, Vault Hunters like us exist. The modern-day treasure hunters of guns and violence. With the first piece of the key in hand, we continue on to the next area. This part of the game focuses on guns and cars, culminating in a car versus car battle. You have to circle the arena trying to blow up the boss's car while avoiding his missiles, or like me, you can cheat. With Mad Mel defeated, you can continue on to the next area of the game. Now, the problems with the game start to emerge here. Up to this point, you've been fairly on or above level for the missions I need to continue the story. And in general, you will receive missions related to the story missions you're about to embark on, or in the general area you're already in. But as the game goes on, the missions branch further and further off of the main story path. There's an entire mission board and a series of missions leading up to it that you actually have no reason to ever complete while going through the game. The Middle of Nowhere bounty board contributes nothing to the story in any way other than giving you more stuff to do so that you stay above level. But from this part of the game on, a new problem crops up with missions. 90% of them are completely pointless, as well as being completely out of the way. The starting area wasn't very large. It could be crossed on foot quickly, and in a car in no time at all. And as story missions took you back and forth, it was no inconvenience to take the quests. But now the map is far too large to have you drive or run between areas, so there's a fast travel system implemented. Now you can jump from certain checkpoints at the start of levels or areas to similar checkpoints in other levels or areas. While this speeds up the game, it also highlights the uselessness of most of the quests. Why should I take another quest that will give me a tiny amount of experience that doesn't actually matter, that I have to go out of my way for and run through an entire level that I already completed with no changes to complete? But if you don't complete at least some of these extra missions, you'll soon find yourself woefully underleveled and having trouble keeping up with the game. The path from Mad Mel leads you to New Haven, a town of NPCs that moved from Old Haven for reasons I'm really not clear on. They give you minimal quests, mostly pointing you ahead to find the researcher Patricia Tannis for help finding the vault. There's lots of side quests they'd like you to do, but again, useless. Patricia sends you to Crazy Earl, who sends you to kill Crom. Crom is another difficult boss fight as you work your way through his canyon, dodging shots from his turret. Yeah, this is starting to be a bit of a theme with bosses. With Crom defeated, you're sent on to the next boss fight, but you don't know what it'll be against. You know, when I said I expected something different when discovering Honey Pop, This was not the difference I meant. Get that thing away from me. Now, you're supposed to shoot off the waves of Rack while avoiding the beast itself. Yeah, most bosses can be cheated or messed with. In the Rack Hive's case, it turns out the Rack can't properly attack you if you're under a head level overhang, so the Hive itself can only attack at close range, and it can't get up to where I'm standing right now. It's at this point that I'm forced to finally give in to the game and spend some amount of time faffing about the map pointlessly, completing enough side quests to level up. I just want to play through the game, but I'm being forced to backtrack and spend more time in areas that I've already thoroughly gone through before. Sometimes missions will send you to deal with an extra thing that there's no reason you couldn't or shouldn't have done the first time. But no, to drag out the playtime of the game, they forcibly split up what little content there is. But faffing requirements have been met, Patricia sends us into Old Haven to prepare to enter the next area, and I will never have a problem with this game again. See, there are several rarities of guns, similar to any normal loot system for an MMO. What's that? This is a co-op shooter and not an MMO, you say? It has loot systems, upgradable skill trees, and a nebulous quest system. That's an MMO in my book. It's just a really lonely MMO. And yeah, you can bring it up to 4 more players, but even if they're all like me, massive that is not. So the rarity of guns goes white, green, blue, purple, orange. There's also pearlescent, but I've never seen these rarest of guns in my entire time playing the game, and their chance of being dropped is so low that the Borderlands wiki says that it cannot be conveyed by any comparison to any other rare items in the game, so I will just ignore their existence. A revolver that spreads corrosive acid to all enemies near my shot and ignores armor. Suddenly, the endgame enemies were a joke so long as I had ammo for this gun. A quick trip to Baron Flint's earth-moving machine, and he was dead, and Patricia is revealed to have betrayed us to the local government. The government had promptly taken the vault key, locked Patricia up, then shut down the world to make sure we wouldn't interrupt them. Throughout this final level of the game, there's actually no reason to take your time or to fight anyone. They want to make it look like there is, but it's all a waste of time. You just turn on your eternal sprint and keep running through the level until you die. When you die, you're given a chance to shoot an enemy to death and regain some of your health back and all of your shield. So, with my overpowered revolver, 2 shots to a nearby enemy that killed me, and I'm back up and running again. Repeat until you're at the end of the insanely long path, and you're instantly taken hostage by the military leader. Once again, I have to ask the same question that I did in Blade Kitten. When has 2 men with guns pointed at us stopped us? These are basic Lance soldiers. I can kill them both with 3 shots from my revolver total. But as soon as we're in cutscene, we have to take them seriously and let this play out. So they open the vault and... Cthulhu! Alright, his deformed half-brother, but same thought. This fight sums up why I don't feel bad about cheating my way through boss fights. Every boss fight in this game has been created around the belief that you will be playing with 4 human players. So each boss does insane amounts of damage and soaks up bullets like I soak up Swedish fish. In multiplayer, if one ally falls, either another ally can pick them back up before they officially die, or they can respawn and run back to the fight as fast as possible. As long as one member of the team keeps fighting and doesn't die, the boss's health bar doesn't reset. But when there's only one player, that isn't an option. This results in fights that you win that you take over 7 minutes of shooting to take down. Yeah, when your boss fight takes 7 minutes or more on the round that your player wins while they were going all out, you've created a boss with too much health. Now, the game tries to claim that enemies have more health if there's more players, and that it spawns harder enemies. Oh, harder enemies, you say? Like more of the badass units that aren't supposed to spawn until well into the game? Yeah, I stopped listening to anything you had to say about difficulty when 5 of those spawned in a row during my 3rd real mission in the game. But with the creature from the vault defeated, Angel apologizes to us for misleading us about the vault. We are thanked for our services and paid a great deal for the key even though it doesn't do anything anymore. Which is good because the gigantic final boss literally dropped nothing of value, and I can say from having beaten him 9 times now that this is always true. Then the claptrap from the start of the game gets shocked with power from the sky and turns into the interplanetary robot assassin and... credits. Well, if you were playing the base game, that's where this would end. Frustrating, little slow, but still quite enjoyable. But, luckily for us, this game was released back in 2009 and there's been a lot of DLC. So I have the Game of the Year edition for us to check out. The first DLC was Dr. Ned's Zombie Island. This can be seen as the inevitable zombies that get added to a franchise when it's out of ideas, except this DLC came first, which should scare you. It certainly scares me because zombies are already rotted and decaying, acid weapons mean nothing to them, so my awesome revolver is suddenly worthless. Just like the main game, the story almost doesn't exist. Basically, Dr. Ned, who is definitely different from Dr. Zed from the main game, isn't it obvious? Created zombies. You need to go in and clean up the mess and eventually take out the doctor. On the way, there's plenty of horror tropes like werewolves, Frankenstein monster, and lots of spooky forests and blood. Oh, and a headless horseman that I didn't fight because it was completely out of the way in a section of the map that I never had any reason to go to for the story. Yeah, that issue from the last game has gotten worse on two fronts. Firstly, there are no cars and the maps are bigger, so you have to run everywhere. Secondly, there is no fast travel system, so you have to run everywhere. This drags out the playtime of the level without adding any more real content. There isn't any story, what little there is comes across in one level, and every bit of the story I can sum up in 3 sentences. So you work your way to Ned through the huge, overlong maps. He goes down easily, but he interrupts his own credits as a huge, misshapen monster, which you follow down into the ground to a cavernous lake of blood where you... Yeah, I have no idea how I broke this one, but he couldn't move. Thank goodness, since once again he soaks up a lot of bullets without any real way to avoid getting hit. You just need more players that I don't have. The second DLC is Mad Moxie's Underdome. Moxie is a crazy dominatrix who doesn't have a husband to torture, so instead gets her kicks torturing fools who enter her tournaments. You get dropped into an arena of thrown together assets from various parts of the main game, then get random enemies thrown at you in waves with a random upgrade to their health or shields or other variables. If a member of your team of 4 dies, they're sent to a penalty box until the next round. Wait, there's only one of you? Yeah, you'll get overwhelmed by all the enemies, and you won't get any good loot, which is the only reason to play this hack job excuse for DLC. That's right, I'm calling you out, Gearbox. This is the laziest excuse for game design I've yet seen. You literally threw structures everywhere that you'd already programmed into the game, gave it a set pool of enemies to possibly spawn in each wave, and gave it a set pool of variables. You handed the players a randomizer and said, here, make your own fun out of it. That's lazy, unacceptable, and you wanted $10 for it. I wouldn't give you 50 cents, and yet that's still more than I'd pay you for the next DLC. The secret armory of General Knox is a good idea on the surface. The governing company who colonized Pandora and whose general got murdered by the main game's final boss blames you entirely for what happened on the planet. So they have sent down another general, this one much more dangerous, to wipe you out and bring the planet back under their iron fist. You work with a defector from their army to bring them down, stealing access codes, setting bombs, removing roadblocks, everything you'd expect. They also seem to hear my complaints about no car and huge areas on foot in the zombie DLC, so you pretty much use cars to get everywhere in this one. So how can you mess that up? Well, firstly, apparently those cars gave them license to make areas even bigger. It actually takes longer to drive to these places than it does to run to places in the zombie island. And there's nothing to see. At least Zombie Island was atmospheric, dripping with that Halloween-y goodness and slime. This is some sandy rocks and a road going through them, and sometimes parts of the road are broken, so you'll have to drive on the sand, which handles exactly the same as the road. But once you've driven there once, you can just fast travel, right? Wrong. You will always have to drive from and to everything. So you'll get a mission. Then you'll drive to the other end of the map, entering the next map. Without stop, you'll drive to the end of that map, which will take you several minutes. Then enter the next map and drive to the end of that map. Finish the quest at the far end of that map. Then drive all the way back to turn the quest in. Except the new storyline quest. Turn around and go straight back where you came from. Gearbox, if I wanted to waste my life driving with no actual purpose, just back and forth, I'd use the real-life highway, and it would still be cheaper to pay for the gas than the $30 that I would have spent so far for DLC. This is the most disgusting and blatant example of padding that I've yet seen on this show. Oh, and this boss was able to be cheesed too. Look, I talked about how much I loved this game, and I played it many times, many times before, but every time I started to try and pick up the DLC, I would give up less than an hour into Nox's armory. Making it to the end of the DLC took more patience than the entirety of playing Elmo's Letter adventure. It took far longer as well, yet it had about as much actually engaging gameplay. So if you want to pick up Borderlands, play it for like an hour at a time, and slowly work your way through the game, feel free. Do you want to really sit down and actually play it? Don't bother. And don't even touch the DLC, no matter how good it sounds, because it will not live up to expectations at best, and just bore you to death and waste your money at worst.
Otter?
Review's over. Go home.
There's still another DLC, Otter.
I don't have to finish all these games. I didn't finish Dark Corners of the Earth, did I?
That was different. Go play the last DLC.
No.
Go play it, Otter.
No! Play the game! The last DLC is called Claptrap's New Robot Revolution. Yeah, you remember the Claptrap that turned evil at the end of the main game? This is the ending for that story. He was supposed to kill you, but he saw how all the Claptraps around him were being treated. There's actually an amazing reference to BioShock in the DLC that sums it up nicely.
The Claptrap not entitled to the quarrel of his crown? No, says the man in Hyperion, it belongs to his owner. No, says the treasure hunter, it belongs splattered on the floor. But we choose something different. We choose the revolution!
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
And that's what most of this DLC is. References. So the Claptrap assassin decided that instead of just killing the Vault Hunters, he would kill all humans and bring humanity into an age of cyborgs. So the same company that ordered him to kill us suddenly wants our help defeating him, and because shooting things is all that we're good at, we agree to help out. This DLC actually fixes a lot of my problems with the other two. Yes, it's only 2 DLC, that pile of trash doesn't count. The areas of the game are well defined and easily accessible without much running. Even though there's still no fast travel, the main hub isn't so large as to make it inconvenient, and none of the mission levels ever feels like it's being dragged out so as to make you slog through it and artificially lengthen the gameplay. Then again, part of my enjoyment may have come from my orange guns. See, I still kept my acid revolver in the hopes it'd be useful again. And robots being mostly made of metal and armor, suddenly that gun that ignores armor is amazing. But I also found another orange gun right at the end of the Armory DLC. A shotgun that shoots a cross of explosions that did more damage than any other shotgun I'd found in all game, or at any point after that in the game. So because of this, the enemies were never that difficult. There's still very little story, but the game puts so much emphasis on fast action and references for this DLC that it doesn't stand out as much as the others. Before you know it, you're facing off against the other DLC bosses again, but reanimated cyborg versions. After explosion shotgunning General Knox back to death, and once again glitching out Dr. Ned, I'm ready to fight the Claptrap assassin. Now, through the whole game, my acid gun hasn't been very helpful against bosses, because most bosses are meant to be final challenges and seem to be immune to dots, caused by fire and acid. The Mega Claptrap, however, yeah, not so much. I'd only shot him a few times before I was almost dead from the turrets all over him, and I was hiding behind this power pole next to the road, which, can I say, it is so cool having the absolute final boss fight of the game in the same spot you began the game in, and I wasn't sure how I was gonna beat him. Lo and behold, I pop out of cover with my recharged shield and he's almost dead. Upon quickly realizing he must be taking damage over time from the acid, I cracked off a few more hits and ducked back out of sight, whereupon he dies to the dot that apparently they forgot to make their ultimate final baddie immune to. Well, technically he leaves the giant mecha and tries to fight you one-on-one, but that's a joke. He's no harder than every other Claptrap you fought throughout this whole area. You reprogram him into a dancing robot, which apparently voids his warranty, so we're stuck with him now. But as a reward for saving the planet from the robot revolution, we are allowed access to the Hyperion Company gift shop. How boring. Fine, we may as well at least go look at the shop and see what there is. Probably just some reference, or some stupid snow globe, or an entire basement full of weapons chests all in one place? Oh, Gearbox, why did I ever doubt you? Oh, it's so wonderful. So many weapons everywhere and all for me. Oh, I can't wait to try these out against... Hang on, that's the absolute end of the game. There's nothing else to play. There is nothing to actually use this awesome final reward on.
Nope.
Oh man, what is it with this year so far and just games that are not all that fun? Oh well, there's always going to be good ones in there, right? Hopefully you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next week for another game, ironically, that, well, I won't say whether I enjoyed it or not. I'll wait for you guys to discover. Until then, remember, life is always another game waiting to be discovered.
Strike the Flash!
Actually, that would have worked. Okay. Where'd that land?